Hello world!
Hi everyone!
This is an interactive poker news story show where we want to hear your opinions. The Polk versus D-Negs, the grudge match. So last week I showed you the entire history of the Polk-Negreanu feud. Started way back in 2014 when he challenged Negreanu to play 25-50 online, which they never did, by the way. So now, how many years later is that? 6 years later, they're going to be playing 200, 400. Daniel is like super old school. He was like one of the original famous poker players. Doug's an online player, built a bankroll that way, and then really became famous by creating YouTube videos. And so that's why it's kind of like old school versus new school. Like last week, I think I was really, really hard on D-Negs. And this week, I think he's really been trying to behave.
I would say his attitude has definitely changed from what we're seeing from last week.
So the details on the grudge match that we know so far are 2 tables of 200, 400, no limit online.
Because, it's cash. You have the hard cash on the table.
Yeah, it's real
Tournaments,
money.
It's just a pile. Exactly. Real money. Cash, real money.
Next one, the no hole cards, though. This was Daniel who nixed that. Daniel's argument that, hey, your team can just analyze this. And Doug's argument was, yeah, so can yours. I don't get that as an argument. Doug said there's going to be video cameras, like face cams.
Oh. So then if you have the video cameras, then I guess that's also some security that that Doug's by himself, not getting, help from anyone else.
Why did you only say Doug's name there? This is a quote directly from D-Negs. Many people have suggested adding a charity component to the match. Do some good in the world, but he is anti-giving to those in need. And otherwise, I imagine we would have done something positive with this. He refused. Doug once was, imagine thinking I'm anti-helping people. I said that I didn't want to use charity as a promotional aspect to the match. Most charities are also horribly mismanaged. And the final thing, they agreed that the date would be mid-September, early October.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised that they're just sticking to no limit, that Omaha didn't come up.
I think he thinks no limit is more interesting to the general audience. Okay, so why would Negreanu do this? Like, this was my big question. 3 reasons were goals. I've always been into setting goals, more importantly, focusing on the journey towards those goals. While others may mock me for my lofty aspirations, it doesn't stop me from trying to achieve them. Second, buzz. Clearly, this is something that's created a lot of buzz in the poker world, and poker fans want to see the match. And 3, for many years now, this man has made a living off of trashing me on a regular basis, well past an unhealthy obsession, not because he truly believes I'm an evil monster, but purely for personal gain, disguised as standing for some noble cause. And that's the other thing about his entire blog post. It's basically setting himself up, saying that I'm completely out of my league.
Say Poker Go does host it. So do you think they would still put up their own money?
They better put up their own money. If they're staked, it's not the same. So right now, Doug Polk's a significant favorite, I would say. Like, this almost actually makes me want to bet on D-Negs because of the odds he's getting.
This was a huge weekend for online poker. We had the WPT series on Party Poker, WSOP, and then we also had the Party Poker Stadium series. And Lex posted 8 hours ago, holy shit, poker is top 6 on Twitch globally. Just insane. First time ever poker crossed 100,000 viewer mark.
Wow. Jonathan Little, he's like, you're not going to like what I'm coming out with soon. And this is an iPhone app that he has. Now we're getting to the technology where you will be able to use real-time solvers.
And the question is when, where, how are poker players allowed to use these tools? Are we allowed to use them in-game? Are we allowed to use them live, etc.? And basically in tournament poker, you're not allowed to consult study aids during a live hand. But as we know, Christian Soto, this was playing in a cash game. So then the question is, do we have different rules then for tournament versus cash game play? And is this type of thing allowed? There's nothing in the rules that prevents a player from looking at the phone or looking at charts between hands.
I still want to have my phone at the table. As you guys may or may not know, we have a stream bet, and we chose a team of 4, and if they win a bracelet, the other person has to wear a chicken suit. But I chose Chrissy and she crushed it for her third no limit bracelet. So much respect for this girl. Comment, she's like, oh, she's so happy she could help me win.
Yeah, exactly. So the bracelet win is well deserved. Although I have to win the chicken suit, like I said in my tweet, I'm happy for Kristen, but I'm a little bit sad that I have to wear this suit on stream.
I'm
But
so excited.
And then if we just look at the history of her bracelet wins, so in 2013, she did win the $1,000 buy-in ladies no limit hold'em championship. 2016, she won over $290,000 and the bracelet in the $1,500 bounty no limit event at the WSOP. Now in 2020, it was the 2,500 no limit hold'em six-handed event, and she took home more than $350,000.
I also just want to point out how amazing I am at picking poker winners. Because we had 4 people. One of my people wins an actual bracelet so far. One of them came second in an event. Like, out of 4 people, I have a first and a second. Moving on to the leaderboard. So the World Series of Poker leaderboard.
So there was a mistake. So then on August 3rd, Kevmath tagged WSOP. How did the points jump all about? You know, is there a mistake? Like, who's checking this before you publish, especially before making a payout?
I think this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing that they made this mistake once again.
And Kevin's always out there, you know, answering people's questions, you know, tagging people, how people can get paid out. He was very involved with keeping us abreast of the WSOP leaderboard and all the mistakes that happen. And usually, you know, him in Las Vegas, he's always, you know, sending the daily tweets from the WSOP.com account, keeping us up to date, what's going on at the Rio, what events are canceled, what events are delayed, etc. So I think people underappreciate how much work goes into that.
Moving on to Donnie Peters' thread, which was pretty interesting.
So for example, the largest size field from the WSOP.com portion of the online was 2,545 entries from event number 19. But the record overall is still from a 2018 online event, which was 2,972 entries. Yes.
Joe McKeon, who won the World Series of Poker main event and got another bracelet this year, he was the player that won the most money. He cashed 8 times, which is pretty sick. Because last night had over $1 million on the table. They were playing 200, 400, but unlimited straddles, heads up, and he was playing against Victor Limitless, who's a Polish pro. Yeah, GGPOKER has 3% rake on their Omaha games uncapped. And that's just insane. They use a player valuation system, so they rate players. That way, GG is taking the money out of the ecosystem, out of the poker system, but they're giving it back to the recreational players, to the losing players, more than they are the winning players. So I reached out to high stakes PLO players. Most of them like, oh, I don't play on that site because the rake's so bad. So I'm like, so this is actually working. We're actually keeping the pros away.
So would you be more willing to pay a higher rake if you would be able to win more pots and larger pots?
The place that I have that exact experience is Leon's sponsored area of the Rio for high stakes players. So much higher risk than anywhere else in Vegas. And I do play. When there's money going in the pot, it's not all nits. I take that advantage, even though I'm playing a ridiculous break. Now, it's significantly different in No Limit, though. First of all, No Limit is capped, and it's 5%. And the other thing that GGPOKER does, which is different than most sites, is they rake pre-flop on a 3-bet pot. Now, why that affects No Limit more than PLO is because PLO, you're more likely to see flops.
Steve, he was basically saying that he had notes on players and that the screen names on GG had been changing. So for one player, it was basically the 3rd name change on GGPOKER since the start of WSOP against, you know, terms and conditions of any other site. Normally, once you have your name, you're set with that name for life you can't change. The first live update is from India, and the Dalton Royal, which some of you may know because that is where the WPT India is hosted. They did a little teaser on their Facebook. I'll keep my eyes open for you to see when they officially open up. Will the WPT Korea take place in September? And then will the WPT in India, scheduled for October, go on as planned? So on last week's episode, I did announce that the casinos in England were supposed to open on August 1st, and we did have the message that Hippodrome was supposed to be offering poker. On July 31st, there was more articles released that casinos, along with other large indoor venues, were now off the list, and their opening has been pushed to August 15th. Announced that the first 9-handed Nevada poker room that was found is at the Reno and Peppermill. So they're playing full 9-handed with plexiglass.
Yeah, that's really interesting that they're the ones. The next one is the Sands.
This is a letter to the employees of the Sands Corporation, just reminding them that they haven't laid off any employees since March 17th. We are extending our commitment to maintaining pay and benefits for all employees through at least October 31st. So we have to give credit to the Venetian.
Other casinos are not doing this. That's why this is a big deal.
Correct. The lobbying and online poker, and that's one of the main reasons why I don't like to play the Venetian. But after their actions during COVID, maybe I'll change my stance. I'm not sure.
And we will see you guys again next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Twitch chat made me do it!